Alright people, we're going back to the prehistoric days of Formula 1, when safety regulations were a distant dream and Enzo Ferrari, a man perpetually annoyed, had one mission: to dominate the world of racing. Ferrari entered F1 in 1950 with the 375 F1, a torpedo on wheels that was fast but as reliable as dial-up internet. Still, by 1951, Ferrari secured its first win at the British Grand Prix, officially telling the world, "We're here to ruin your day." Fast forward to the 1960s, and Ferrari introduced the iconic 156 Shark Nose, a car that didn't just look fast, it looked hungry. With Phil Hill at the wheel, Ferrari clinched its first world championship in 1961, but success came with unimaginable tragedy at the 1961 Italian Grand Prix in Monza. Wolfgang von Trips, Ferrari's rising star, was leading the championship and poised to secure the title. However, fate had other plans. On the second lap, his Ferrari collided with Jim Clark's Lotus at terrifying speeds. Von Trips' car veered off the track, launching into the crowd and ending the lives of 15 spectators and the driver himself.
And Von Trips' Ferrari collided while braking for the parabolica.
The 60s and 70s saw Ferrari embracing sleek aerodynamics and, reluctantly, the mid-engine design. Enzo initially dismissed it as a fad, but after getting spanked by Lotus like a misbehaving toddler, he caved. The result? The 158 strutted onto the track in 1964, snagging Ferrari another championship and proving that sometimes even the greats have to swallow their pride, preferably with a shot of espresso. And who could forget the 1966 Le Mans battle? Ford wanted to buy Ferrari, and Enzo told them they could shove it where the sun doesn't shine. Big mistake. Ford unleashed the GT40, which crushed Ferrari so hard you could hear the espresso cup smashing in Maranello. This rivalry was so epic, they made a whole movie about it. Ferrari doubled down on their quest for supremacy. Enter the 1970s, when men raced with sideburns as bold as their overtakes. Ferrari was in a bit of a slump, but enter Niki Lauda in 1974, the no-nonsense Austrian guy who could outthink any engineer, outdrive any rival, and probably outlecture your college professor on aerodynamics. Lauda didn't just race, he revolutionized Ferrari's approach, turning them into an unstoppable force. In 1975, Ferrari unleashed the 312T, a car so balanced and fast it felt like cheating. Lauda dominated the season, winning his first championship and giving Ferrari a much-needed confidence boost. Ferrari wasn't just back, they were out for blood. But then came the 1976 German Grand Prix. Lauda's horrific crash left him with severe burns, and most thought his career was over. Nope. Just 6 weeks later, Lauda was back in the car, showing the world that he was built differently. The 1976 season ended in a nail-biting showdown between Lauda and James Hunt, with the plot so juicy, Netflix wishes they had thought of it first. In Japan, Lauda retired due to dangerous conditions, handing the championship to Hunt. It was a mix of bravery, pragmatism and heartbreak, a quintessential Ferrari chapter. In 1977, Lauda returned to his winning ways, clinching another championship before walking away from Ferrari mid-season due to internal drama. His departure marked the end of an era defined by precision and dominance. But as the dust settled, Ferrari faced a new challenge, keeping their competitive edge in the rapidly evolving world of turbocharged engines. So, welcome to the 80s, a decade of turbocharged engines, wild hair, and even wilder racing. Ferrari finally joined the turbo revolution with the 126C in 1981. This car wasn't just fast, it was a fire-breathing dragon that could set records, or burst into flames, depending on the day. Ferrari's turbo engines were either unstoppable or self-destructive, with pit crews joking they were on the first-name terms with fire marshals. This unpredictability was peak Ferrari, exhilarating and terrifying all at once. The 80s also brought one of Ferrari's most infamous driver feuds, Jules Villeneuve versus Didier Pironi. At the 1982 San Marino GP, Pironi ignored team orders, stealing the win from Villeneuve. Furious, Villeneuve vowed never to speak to Pironi again, but tragically died 2 weeks later in a crash during qualifying at the Belgian Grand Prix. Later that year, also Pironi's career came to a heartbreaking end after a brutal accident at the German Grand Prix, cementing this as one of Ferrari's darkest chapters. By the mid-80s, Ferrari introduced the sleek F1 87, but it wasn't enough to deliver consistent wins. In 1990, Alain Prost joined Ferrari and almost clinched the title, but a collision with Senna in Japan ended his hopes. Prost famously called the car a truck, and Ferrari fired him. Classic Scuderia drama. The decade ended on a somber note with Enzo Ferrari's death in 1988. His passing marked the end of an era, leaving the team to grapple with a new reality without its iconic leader. Without Enzo, Ferrari struggled to find their footing through the late 80s and 90s. 90s, but then the 2000s arrived, and Ferrari was like watching Thanos with all the Infinity Stones. They didn't just win, they snapped their fingers and obliterated the competition. The mastermind behind this era of dominance? Michael frickin' Schumacher, a man who made perfection look boring. When Schumacher joined Ferrari in 1996, the team was like a rusty old Fiat, but Schumi, along with his Avengers, Ross Brawn and Ryan Byrne, turned it into a Ferrari on steroids. By 2000, he ended Ferrari's 21 years Drivers' Championship drought. The Tifosi partied like they'd just won the lottery and gotten a lifetime supply of espresso. The F2002 and F2004 weren't just cars, they were racing gods disguised as machines. These bad boys made other teams look like they brought go-karts to a drag race. Schumacher and his cars broke records like a kid smashing piñatas at a birthday party. Meanwhile, the rest of the grid could only watch and cry. The Austrian Grand Prix. A masterclass in awkwardness. Barrichello got the infamous step-aside order from Ferrari, and Schumacher awkwardly inherited a win that felt more like borrowing a friend's Netflix password. Even Schumacher looked embarrassed on the podium, holding a trophy that might as well have come with a disclaimer: Participation Award for Ruthless Tactics. By 2005, rule changes slowed Ferrari's reign. The F2005 car felt like a retired heavyweight champ, still strong, but no longer unbeatable. Schumacher fought hard, but rivals like Renault and McLaren finally smelled blood. By 2006, Schumi retired, leaving behind a legacy so massive it made other legends look like extras in his movie. Replacing a Titan was no small task, but Ferrari bet on a new dynamic duo to keep the dream alive. With Schumacher hanging up his racing gloves, Ferrari needed a new dynamic duo to keep the dream alive. Next, Kimi Räikkönen, aka the Iceman, a man who speaks less than your phone's battery percentage, and Felipe Massa, the Brazilian heartthrob with the passion of a samba dancer. Together, they were Ferrari's odd couple, ready to bring the chaos. Nobody expected Kimi to win the title in 2007, not even Kimi, but in classic Ferrari fashion, McLaren imploded with drama, and the Iceman calmly scooped up the championship in the final race. His celebration? A monotone, yeah, it's nice, followed by chugging champagne like he was in a Viking feast. Ferrari's fans lost their minds, and Kimi cemented his status as the chillest champion ever. The 2008 season was Massa's chance to shine. He won 6 races and brought Ferrari to the brink of glory. In the final race at Brazil, he crossed the finish line as world champion for 30 seconds. His family were already celebrating in tears, and Ferrari fans screamed louder than an overworked espresso machine. But then Hamilton pulled off a last corner miracle, snatching the title away. Massa's tears became a symbol of pure heartbreak. The 2008 Singapore GP was a hot mess. Renault's Piquet Jr. intentionally crashed to help his teammate. And Ferrari? They decided to join the chaos by botching Massa's pit stop, leaving him dragging a fuel hose like a toddler clinging to their mom at the mall. That moment might have cost Ferrari the championship, but hey, it gave us meme gold. By 2009, Ferrari's golden streak hit a massive pothole. The F60 was moving slower than a snail on vacation. Kimi won 1 race in Belgium, but the team spent most of the season in the midfield, wondering where it all went wrong. Meanwhile, Massa suffered a horrific crash in Hungary, sidelining him for the rest of the year. Ferrari's struggles were real, and the Tifosi were holding their rosaries. Ferrari decided to spice things up by bringing in Fernando Alonso, a 2-time world champion and master of angry radio messages. Kimi shrugged his way out of Ferrari, probably off to sip vodka in a sauna, while Alonso arrived with hopes of dragging the Scuderia back to glory. So, now to the Alonso years, a time when Ferrari became the masters of close but no cigar. Fernando Alonso, a 2-time world champion, joined Ferrari in 2010 with dreams of recreating Schumacher-level dominance. Spoiler alert, it didn't happen. Instead, we got a soap opera of near misses, pit wall disasters, and legendary radio rants. Alonso's debut year was a roller coaster. The F10 wasn't perfect, but Alonso still managed to win 5 races and lead the championship going into the final race in Abu Dhabi. All Ferrari had to do was not screw up. Guess what? They pitted Alonso early, trapping him behind Vitaly Petrov, a driver so slow he might as well have been a moving chicane. Alonso finished 7th and Vettel snatched the title. Alonso's death stare at Petrov post-race? Iconic. Ferrari fans? Devastated. By 2010, Ferrari produced the F2012, a car so ugly it looks like a platypus with wheels. Yet somehow, Alonso made it work, winning 3 races and consistently finishing on the podium. The championship came down to the final race in Brazil, where Vettel spun on the first lap but still managed to recover and take the title. Alonso lost by 3 points, leaving Ferrari fans screaming into their pasta bowls. We can't skip Alonso's infamous Petrov rant. Stuck behind the Russian driver for over 40 laps in 2010, Alonso's frustration became a meme. It perfectly summed up the Ferrari-Alonso relationship championship. So much potential, yet always held back by someone or something, just slightly slower. By 2013, Red Bull's dominance had fully kicked in, and Ferrari's F138 was outclassed. Alonso fought valiantly, but it wasn't enough. Then came 2014, and Ferrari hit rock bottom with the F14T, a car slower than your grandma's shopping cart. Alonso's patience ran out, and his radio messages became pure gold. "This is ridiculous," and GP2 engine were instant classics. By the end of 2014, Alonso had enough. He left Ferrari for McLaren, where things somehow got worse. Hello, Honda engines. Meanwhile, Ferrari brought back Kimi and signed Sebastian Vettel, hoping to finally turn their luck around. Enter the Vettel era, where Ferrari's dreams of recapturing Schumacher-level glory felt tantalizingly close, until they weren't. Sebastian Vettel, fresh off 4 consecutive titles with Red Bull, joined Ferrari in 2015, and the goal? End Mercedes' dominance. The reality? A mix of hope, heartbreak, and enough spins to make you dizzy. Ferrari introduced the SF15T in 2015, finally producing a car that could keep up with Mercedes. Vettel won 3 races and even dared to believe Ferrari could challenge for titles again. The Tifosi were cautiously optimistic, treating those wins like finding a $20 bill in an old jacket, unexpected but also satisfying. By 2017, Ferrari unleashed the SF70H, a car that could genuinely battle Mercedes. Vettel led the championship for most of the season, winning 5 races, but as the pressure mounted, Ferrari's classic blunders returned. A disastrous Singapore GP crash wiped out both Ferraris on the first lap, and engine issues sealed their fate. Vettel watched Hamilton snatch the title like candy from a distracted toddler. 2018 started strong, with Vettel and the SF71H looking like serious contenders. Then came Germany, where Vettel spun out while leading. From there, the wheels fell off, literally and metaphorically. Ferrari's strategy team made baffling calls, and Vettel's spins became a running gag. Fans affectionately dubbed him Spin Seb, while Ferrari's title hopes spun into oblivion. Ferrari promoted their golden boy, Charles Leclerc, in 2019, and he didn't disappoint. Leclerc outshone Vettel, winning in Belgium and Monza, Ferrari's home turf. But infighting between the two drivers, combined with the SF90's speed in straights but hopeless in corners design, turned the season into a soap opera. The Brazilian GP? A spectacular double DNF after the drivers collided. Classic Ferrari chaos. Then came 2020, and the SF1000, a car so bad it made the F14T look like a masterpiece. Ferrari finished 6th in the Constructors' Championship, their worst result in decades. Vettel, clearly done with the team's shenanigans, parted ways at the end of the season. It was a breakup as messy as any reality TV show. If you thought Ferrari couldn't sink lower, the Styrian GP proved you wrong. Leclerc and Vettel collided on the first lap, ending both races. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash, except it happened in real time. Fans were left face-palming as the pit wall scrambled for explanations. By the time Vettel left for Aston Martin, Ferrari was in full rebuild mode, placing their hopes on Leclerc and new recruit Carlos Sainz. The Vettel years were a rollercoaster of promise and disappointment, but they left a legacy of iconic moments and memes. Here we are, the Leclerc era, where Ferrari's hopes rest on a young Monegasque driver with a boyish grin and nerves of steel. After the disaster that was 2020, Ferrari went into full rebuild mode, determined to climb back to the top. Spoiler, it's been a bumpy ride full of highs, lows, and enough memes to keep the internet entertained for years. The SF1000 was a disaster. It had no power, no grip, and about as much personality as a brick. Ferrari's 6th place finish in the Constructors' Championship was their worst in decades, and the Tifosi were ready to riot. Leclerc somehow managed a couple of podiums, but overall it felt like Ferrari were racing on hard tyres during a heatwave, completely out of touch. As if the SF1000 wasn't bad enough, Leclerc and Vettel decided to spice things up by crashing into each other on the first lap of the Styrian GP. Both cars were out, and Ferrari's reputation as F1's chaos factory remained firmly intact. With Vettel gone and Carlos Sainz joining the squad, Ferrari introduced the SF21, a much improved car that brought them back to midfield relevance. Leclerc continued to showcase his talent, while Sainz earned the nickname Smooth Operator for his consistent performances. Ferrari finished 3rd in the Constructors' Championship, and the Tifosi breathed a collective sigh of relief. The 2022 season brought new regulations, and Ferrari seized the opportunity with the F175. Leclerc won 2 of the first 3 races, including a dominant victory in Bahrain, and suddenly Ferrari looked like the title contenders again. The Tifosi dared to dream, but of course this is Ferrari we're talking about. Things couldn't stay perfect for long. Ferrari's pit wall quickly reminded everyone that Logic had packed his bags and booked a one-way trip out of Maranello. From pitting Leclerc at the worst possible moments to the infamous hard tyres in Hungary, their strategy calls were so bad you'd think that they were using a magic 8-ball. By mid-season, fans were shouting, "Plan F for failure." By 2023, Ferrari was playing catch-up again. Red Bull's RB19 was in a league of its own, while Ferrari's SF23 struggled to keep pace. Leclerc and Sainz managed a few podiums, but Ferrari's inconsistencies, both in performance and strategy, remained their Achilles heel. Leclerc's frustrated radio rants, like, "Why? What are we doing?" became instant classics. As of now, Ferrari's path to the top is as unclear as their race strategies. They've made leadership changes, revamped their engineering team, and placed their hopes on Leclerc and Hamilton. But will it be enough? After all, Ferrari isn't just a racing team, it's a cultural icon, like Beyoncé, but with more engine failures and fewer Grammys. Ferrari have won 16 Constructors and 15 Drivers' Championships, yet for every glorious high, there's a blunder so spectacular it belongs in a museum. Let's explore why Ferrari remains the heart of F1 and what their chaotic future might hold. Ferrari is F1's beating heart, but it's a heart that occasionally skips a few beats, usually due to a botched pit stop or a strategy call from another dimension. From Fangio to Schumacher, Ferrari has delivered moments that shape the sport, yet their knack for drama rivals a telenovela. Drivers clash like WWE superstars, team principals play musical chairs, and strategy blunders become instant memes. The Tifosi endure it all with the resilience of someone stuck in an eternal group project. Ferrari's strategy team has a flair for the dramatic. Remember the Hungarian GP 2022? They thought hard tyres in a heat wave was a stroke of genius. It's like bringing flip-flops to a snowstorm. Bold, but ultimately useless. And who could forget the Styrian GP, where their drivers crashed into each other like they were reenacting a Fast and Furious scene. These moments don't just define Ferrari, they're part of their brand. F1 without Ferrari would be like Netflix without true crime documentaries. Technically possible, but why bother? Their Scarlet cars are synonymous with speed, luxury and passion. Even when they're a hot mess, Ferrari dominates headlines, fueling debates and keeping the sport alive. Whether they're winning or imploding, Ferrari matters, and the Tifosi wouldn't have it any other way. Ferrari fans are the ultimate optimists. No matter how many races they lose or how many times they yell, "Why are we on these tyres?" they always believe next season is the one. It's like rooting for a lottery ticket to hit big every week. Delusional, but endearing. Now for the plot twist. Lewis Hamilton joining Ferrari in 2025. A 7-time world champion and a man known for turning cars into winning machines. Hamilton brings star power and a no-nonsense attitude. His arrival feels like a reality show finale. Can he conquer Ferrari's chaos, or will he join the long list of drivers who left frustrated and meme-worthy? Ferrari's future is as unpredictable as their pit stops. With Hamilton and Leclerc, they've got a dream team on paper, but will their strategy team finally get it together? Can Frederic Vasseur break the cycle of chaos? Or are we in for another season of radio rants and strategy fails? One thing's for sure, the ride will be wild. If you've enjoyed this chaotic journey through Ferrari saga, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started. And trust me, you won't want to miss the drama, the glory, and everything in between. Forza Ferrari!